Welcome in to another Running with the Timberwolves podcast. This is a post-game podcast for the Wolves' 114-110 win over the Indiana Pacers. Of course, this is a Pacer team that went to the NBA Finals last year, but very shorthanded tonight. Of course, that did not stop the Pacers last year as they beat us twice, one time shorthanded. Of course, the Obi Toppin game. Interestingly enough, is that Obi Toppin really didn't do much in this game. I mean, I think he hit one or two threes. He only had 9 points in the night, only played 17 minutes. You would have thought that with how shorthanded the Indiana Pacers were, that they would have played Obi Toppin a lot more, but it was not to be. Of course, Anthony Edwards goes out early in this one with an injury. Not sure how that's going to play out. It looks like, if you want my doctoral opinion, which I am not a doctor at all, I work in tech and podcast on the side, as you know. By the way, give us a like, share, and subscribe, and check out the X page as well. Check out the page. Got tons of great content. And check out our sponsor, 612Ts. Use promo code RUN25 at checkout to get 25% off your first purchase. And leave a comment as well. Anthony Edwards, Wolves build a lead early on. I believe it was 13-5. Pacers call a timeout. And it was interesting because Anthony Edwards, it didn't look like he was hurt. He didn't show any pain. It wasn't the Timberwolves who called the timeout because Anthony Edwards was in pain. In fact, it was the Indiana Pacers who called the timeout because they were down 13-5. There we go. I think my microphone audio just got a whole lot better. Just noticed that. I've gotten whole podcasts before where I'm using the wrong microphone. I have this microphone in my hands and then realize I'm using the real tech on the computer. So glad that I noticed that before we got too far into this. Yeah, Anthony Edwards, hamstring tightness. If you want my doctoral opinion, which I have doctor friends, I am not a doctor, I would say it was just precautionary. Maybe Chris Finch was looking at it and thought, yes, this is a scrappy Indiana Pacers team, but we do have a back-to-back. And do I want to roll the dice with a healthy Anthony Edwards or maybe a 70% Anthony Edwards tonight? Or do I want to roll the dice with Anthony Edwards giving him a night off against the Denver Nuggets? And I think that was an easy decision to him. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, excuse me, maybe the injury is much worse than we anticipate that it is. I mean, he was on the sidelines. He wasn't in a boot or anything, this hamstring soreness. So we will see. But the first thing got to mention is no one's crying for us, right? I mean, look at the Lakers. They just found out Luka Doncic's out for a week. LeBron's been out going to be out till mid-November. They're hurting. Every team is hurting. The Clippers are always hurt all the time. I guess it's the LA teams. No team is going to go without injury. So no one's crying for us. Look at the team we played tonight. The team that took OKC to the game 7 of the NBA Finals. They lost their star player in game 7 of the NBA Finals and found out that it was for an entire season. That's bad luck right there. But let's talk about the game tonight. Hopefully Anthony Edwards will be okay. Hopefully it is just precautionary. But let's talk about just the overall effort tonight. And I thought that a lot of players turned up the effort tenfold tonight. I thought Julius Randle was fantastic. And it's interesting. You always look at a Julius Randle stat line, and he always shows efficiency out there. Like, he's always going to be shooting close to 50% from the floor, if not better. Tonight, 11 from 18, 1 for 4 from 3. He made his first one, then missed the rest. 8 for 10 from the free throw line. But he played that go-to guy with Ant out. He stepped up and got it done tonight. And I've been saying this on the podcast. By the way, you can listen to it on Spotify, Apple, YouTube as well. Basically, wherever you get podcasts, we are there. iHeart, wherever you listen to podcasts. I've been saying this forever. I think if Anthony Edwards is out for, I don't want to say months, because if he's out for months and months and months, then I think we're in trouble. But
if he's out a couple weeks here and there, like maybe a week here, week there, with Randle playing at this level, I think that we might survive it. I'm not saying we're going to excel. I'm not saying we're going to be a 1 seed if Anthony Edwards misses some weeks here and there. But I think that Julius Randle is good enough. You shot with the Knicks 2-3 years ago when he was the most improved player in the league in all NBA. He has the ability to lead a team. I'm not saying that he has the ability to lead a team to the championship, because I don't think that's true. But I think there's some limitations with Julius Randle on that end. But I do think that he is good enough to keep the team afloat for a while. And how about this? I was clowning him. It looked bad in the first half. But Naz Reid, baby, he's back. Maybe the trees inspired him. Maybe the tweet that I put out midway through the close to halftime inspired him. He came out firing, man. He was huge. He looked like the Naz Reid of old. And we're going to need that, because if we have Naz Reid doing nothing and we have Mike Conley doing nothing, who I want to talk about in just a second here, we have Mike Conley doing nothing, and we have Terrence Shannon Jr., who didn't do much tonight. That leaves Jalen Clark and Bones Highland to be the offense off the bench. And I'm sorry, Bones had a good night, had one really bad turnover. I mean, the Wolves did everything they could to give the Pacers life in this game. Thank God for Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle. But, I mean, Naz needs to contribute. We all know that. We just paid him. Jaden needs to contribute. He had a bad shooting night, but had a clutch bucket in the end, had some nice defensive plays. And I think that there's going to be a lot, and I put this out on X as well. I think there's going to be a lot of dads or moms, and their kids going to come up to them and say, hey, I have tryouts for my high school team or varsity or JV or whatever team you want to make. But they say that they're emphasizing defense this year. Who do I got to watch in order to become a good defender? If I'm not the best shooter in the world, I'm not the most athletic player, but if I want to compete on the defensive end, and also I'm not 7 foot as well, or else I'd say Rudy, but if I want to compete on the defensive end, who do I need to emulate? Whose tape do I need to watch? And I think at least locally, at least in Minnesota here, I think a lot of parents are going to say, go watch Jalen Clark tape. Because, yes, Pascal Siakam ended with what, like over 30 points. I think he had, 33 points. But, I mean, I think that there were a lot of possessions that Jalen Clark did an awesome job on him. There are 3 or 4 plays a game where it's just a hustle Jalen play. It's just no one else earned it. No one else forced it. It's just Jalen going out there making a defensive play. He did it in the playoffs last year. He's doing it now, and you just love to see it. Now, if only say shooting can come around and some of his finishing at the rim, I think, and Ben Beacon, who I love. By the way, check out Locked On Wolves. It's one of my favorite favorite Wolves podcasts. I mean, there's a lot of them locally. He's in Oklahoma City, but great podcast. He talked about all last year. Jalen needs to play, and he went through a lot of the on-off numbers with Jalen Clark and just how efficient he is. The shooting isn't there yet, at least this year. I think it'll come around, but Jalen needs to play. Jalen was awesome tonight, and he earned minutes, and he's just one of those guys, right? We saw it at the end of the game. If you can have guys like Jalen Clark and Jaden McDaniels in there for endgame to just play defense, I'm talking on the defensive end, and then you throw in a Rudy Gobert as well. I mean, that's huge. That's what you want right there. And just, I feel like everyone stepped up tonight. I feel like they really did in the absence of Anthony Edwards. I mean, you get out to that big start, 13-5. In fact, in that early start, and by the way, if you're just joining, like, share, and subscribe, check out the Twitter page as well. And follow us on the X page. We love to have you come aboard. We do podcasts like this all the time. In fact, I just found out that I can stream on X. I did not know that now with a premium account. So I'm excited about that. Going to be doing post-game shows here pretty consistently, as much as I can. But, so yeah, I mean, I thought all the starters, I mean, with the exception of Anthony Edwards, because, I mean, obvious, right? Like, Anthony Edwards played 3 minutes. and still managed to have 5 points. But I thought Dante was awesome tonight, hit 3 threes. And I say this all the time, but I think Dante DiVincenzo is one of my favorite players, not only because he hits threes, which is a bonus, right? That's the main thing. He's there to hit threes. I think he's just a scrappy player. I think that he gets after loose balls. I think that he makes the plays that don't always show up in the box score. I think he's just this scrappy player. He plays fast. I think his head is always on a swivel. Now, I'm not going to pretend that he's all NBA defense, but I do like how he does a lot of the extra things. He does extra things in order to get involved, and you saw that tonight. And if it's shot going, that's icing on the cake. I mean, 3 for 8 from 3. Even got to the free throw line 5 times. When was the last time Dante DiVincenzo got to the free throw line 5 times? It's probably been a while. By the way, did anyone else watching the FanDuel tonight see that Aaron Lewis commercial at the I think it was like Mystic Lake or something, or Treasure Island, and he's singing those country songs, but he's using his stained voice, like I was born a country boy. That's a bad example, but you know what I'm talking about. Cringe, okay? I don't want to touch that concert with a 9.5-foot pole. I'm just saying. And by the way, I want to mention this. The 9th ring of hell, Dante's Inferno. I'm pretty sure what they're doing in the 9th ring of hell is they got like Pol Pot and they got Hitler and they got Ted Bundy. And what they're making them do is they're making them watch the FanDuel "We'll Be Right Back" screen on loop, telling them, oh, yeah, the game will be right back. It'll be right back. Assuring them, yeah, the game will be right back. And then it never coming back. There is nothing worse than when FanDuel does not have a commercial ready, and then it's just the screen, and then it's this stock audio of an ump going, you're out, and then bad crowd noise. Oh, it's infuriating. It is infuriating to watch that time and time again. And it just keeps getting worse. You know how bad it is? Do you want to know how bad it is? It makes me commercials. Like it's saying, oh man, I wish a commercial was on right now telling me to buy a RAV4. Because that screen pisses me off every single time. Like I said, back to the game. How about Bones Highland? Now, I know Ant went out. I've been saying this for a little bit. Chris Finch likes Bones Highland. I think Tim Connolly likes Bones Highland. In fact, on this very podcast, we have been talking about Bones Highland for like 3 years now, trying to get him, thinking that the Wolves were trying to pursue him. In fact, if you go back, it's one of our biggest videos from like 2 years ago was talking about Bones Highland, the Wolves trying to get Bones Highland back when he was in Denver, not knowing that 3 years later he would become part of the fold. I thought he was good tonight. I thought that Bones did what he could. I mean, the hope, right? The hope for Bones is that he can be a steady hand and almost like like a Lou Williams. I know we said that a lot with the likes of Jalen Noel, who I actually have his jersey. But I know we said that, but I don't think that's realistic. Bones did go to the lane once, or to the basket once, got blocked, and kind of went away from that. He's a -1 tonight, but I thought pretty good. And just someone they could throw out there who can handle the ball. I liked it. And it looks like after the Portland game, I thought that every team that we played, particularly the young, scrappy teams, were going to watch that footage, even though we won, and say, oh man, we're gonna put our best 2 defenders after made basket, and we are going to guard them 90 feet. We are going to make it difficult for them. And honestly, the Lakers and Indiana did not do that. Now, I'm sure a lot of the Indiana thing was not thinking they had the defenders to do it. Indiana known more for offense than defense, obviously. And then I'm sure the other thing was that basically they played last night and they're very shorthanded. So I don't think that Rick Carlisle thought, maybe I should run my guys ragged and just run them into the ground tonight. Yeah, I'm sure that was part of it. Although Indiana plays fast, and to their credit, and I was talking to some family members. We were celebrating my grandma's birthday, and we were talking about, in particular, my dad was mentioning the Rudy Gobert pick and roll. And we haven't really seen that with Ant. We've seen some forced alley-oops to Rudy Gobert, but we haven't really seen the pick and roll. I think that is how Conley stays in the lineup. I really do. And you even saw him in at the end because, of course, Chris Finch trusts Conley. If he likes Bones Highland, he loves Mike Conley. And I think it was hard for him to make the move. Think about it over offseason to put in Dante DiVincenzo into the starting lineup. But I think that there's still something all these years later to the Conley Rudy pick and roll. You saw it on some big baskets tonight. You saw Rudy set the screen, roll, Mike drive down the perimeter, and then dump it to Rudy. You saw it for the big dunk, which Rudy got fouled on, which Rudy cannot hit a free throw. But, I mean, that's not going to change, right? We knew Rudy's offensive peak has been reached a while ago. now, obviously, he made that one shot against Denver, which we will never forget and eternally thank him for, right? Like, we owe Rudy a lot for that huge shot against Denver in Game 7, but Rudy's never going to be a 3-dribble spin guy into a basket, at least consistently. But I do think there's something to the pick and roll game with Rudy Gobert because I think he's a really good roller, and I think Mike's a good passer to him, and we've seen chemistry on that. So that's how I think Mike Conley stays in the lineup here and stays relevant, is by having the pick and roll game with Rudy Gobert. And I mean, gosh, Rudy looked like the Rudy that was on fire down the stretch last season when the Wolves went 17-4 to end the season. He was awesome. And we've been talking about it in the podcast, which, by the way, you can listen to on the YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple, shameless plug. But when the way to use Rudy is, like I said, not to get him on a post up, not to force it to him, not to throw it at his face like Julius Randle did in I believe Toronto that one time. By the way, I'm looking forward to the road Toronto game because the Wolves still have not beaten Toronto since Garnett. And I really want them to break this streak. It's weird. 2 straight Western Conference Finals have not beaten Toronto on the road since KG was here, since Chris Bosh was in Toronto, since Chris Bosh was young in Toronto. I have that game circled on my calendar. I do every year until the streak is broken. We can beat them at home. We just cannot beat them on the road. Like I said, Dante, awesome tonight. Rudy commanding the paint. 19 rebounds. You love to see it. 4 offensive rebounds. 2 blocks. But the awesomeness of having Rudy Gobert is not measured in how many blocks he has. Maybe it was when he was in Utah, but the measure of Rudy Gobert is just watching the difference between when Naz is out there and when Rudy Gobert is out there. Because for teams that want to attack the paint, the difference is night and day. Now, this is not a knock on Naz. Naz had a great comeback game tonight. He was fantastic. Had 9 points in the fourth quarter. Great stuff. But Rudy, when he is on and he commands the paint, he is still an elite defender. Am I saying that he is Victor Wembanyama? I am not. Because some of those Victor Wembanyama highlights I was watching today, my friend sent them to me, unreal. That if that guy stays healthy, that guy is going to rule the league for years to come, and there's nothing any of us can do about it. But there is still value in Rudy. So remember nights like this when Rudy finishes a game with 6 points, 5 rebounds, and 1 block. Remember nights like tonight when Rudy was one of the main reasons that we won the game. And then, of course, Julius Randle got to every spot that he wanted. And he has perfect timing on delivering the ball. He sucks everybody in, And then when he sees the open shooter, bam, he gets it to him, open three. I don't have the stats, but I would like to see how many points he accounted for tonight. He was just awesome. 6 points, 31 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, 8 for 10 from the free throw line. Great stuff out of Julius Randle. And like they were talking about on the broadcast, I think he's the perfect fit with Anthony Edwards. I really do. And it's shown that they could play with Rudy. It's not that big a deal. There's enough space. It's a big court. We're going to be just fine. Like I said, bench players, great tonight as well. Jalen Clark playing the awesome defense. Terrence Shannon, not awesome, but I mean, he hit 1-3. Conley, like I said, with the pick and roll stuff, can elevate his career. And then our boy, the feel-good player on the team, Joe Ingles, had a beautiful, spot-on bounce pass to seal the game. Perfect. In the stat book, it should show under Joe Ingles, it should show like quarterback. You know when the quarterback gets hurt like late in the game, and then a quarterback goes in and plays like the last series and goes like 1 for 1 for like 3 yards. It should say under Joe Ingles' stat line, it should say 1 for 1, like 2 yards or something like that. Because beautiful inbound pass from Joe Ingles. That's why we pay him $3 million a year. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I love Joe Ingles. He's awesome. There's no reason to dislike Joe Ingles. But great inbounds pass from Joe Ingles. In fact, I want a poster. Someone should make a supercut of Joe Ingles throwing inbounds passes, because I'm sure his completion rate is close to 99%. He's a great inbounds passer. And, that can extend careers. It really can. It's like the DH in baseball, right? To a less extent. But the DH in baseball, you have these huge guys that are way past their prime, and I know I haven't been into baseball, but like a Prince Fielder, right? Or a David Ortiz, way past their buying days where they're playing the field. You just throw them in a DH, hope they hit a home run. Inbound passes, extending careers since 1990. Or that's a made up. That's a made up date, but you know what I'm saying. So yeah, it was important for the Wolves to win this game. It really was, because if you drop this game, first of all, people are going to clown you that you lost again to a bad Pacers team. Not a shorthanded Pacers team. Like if we would have had Obi Toppin game part 2, people, you get clowned all week. And it's a bad look going into a primetime game against the Denver Nuggets. And that's the other thing. In the West, the Wolves, I don't have the stats, but they were horrible. Not horrible, but way worse than you think if you look at the actual number against the Eastern Conference last year. And everyone considers the Eastern Conference the lesser of the conferences. Honestly, I was talking to my friend today. I think that we may at some point be going towards a 1 through 16 rating, right? Like for the playoffs. I think that's where we may be going. I'd love to see it. I would love to see that, because that would help out the Wolves a lot. By the way, guess who we would have played last year in the first round, I believe? The New York Knicks. How fun would have that been? I'm not saying we win that series. I'm not saying we lose that series, but how fun would have playing Karl Anthony Towns in round 1 of the playoffs? That would have been interesting. Now, obviously, we got the playoffs that we got, right? And we're very happy about that, going to a Western Conference Finals. But to play Cat, at least right now, we got to make the NBA Finals. And I'd love to, but there's a lot of good teams in the Western Conference. Even though they lost to Portland, I don't know, the Warriors look great, in my opinion. They play the right way. It's crazy. Steph Curry, he plays the right way. Back cuts, they get at least 10 points a night just on open back cuts, and other teams just don't do it. So it's going to be a dogfight here. Shout out Michael Vick in the Western Conference. So getting these wins on the front half of a back-to-back on the front half of a back-to-back when you got the team that you have history with the next night. When you've got a late game, a televised game. Now I know every game's televised, but quote unquote nationally televised on Peacock against who many consider the best player in the league in Nikola Jokic. You can't let those. They say it all the time, like some random Tuesday in the NBA. You can't let those games pass you by. You can't let them slip. Now down the stretch, the Wolves almost did. The Wolves almost did let them slip. Some turnovers down the stretch. I even not yelled, because I live in an apartment, so I got to keep my voice down. But I even yelled. So are we just going to leave Aaron Nesmith wide open? Because that's kind of what we did for a couple of possessions. The only guy that can hurt us from three, realistically, I mean, Siakam wasn't hitting too many threes. Maybe Ben Shepherd, a couple others were hitting some shots, but we were leaving the only guy that could really hurt us wide open. And we got to stop doing that. But other than that, I thought that a lot of great performances from a lot of guys. Love to see Naz Reid wake up. 10 rebounds tonight from Naz Reid, 4 offensive rebounds. You love to see it. 16 points. How about 29 combined rebounds for our big guys, Naz and Rudy Gobert, and 8 combined offensive rebounds for Gobert and Naz. Great stuff tonight from everyone involved. Hoping that Ant is going to be okay. I think he is. Like I said, it's just my opinion, but I don't think it's going to be too bad. Now it may be something that the Wolves have to monitor for the rest of the year. Maybe his hamstring flares up. We don't know. Every time that Anthony Edwards goes down, and this was an abnormal one, because usually when Ant goes down, it looks like, oh no, season's over. It's done. We're done. And then he goes in midway through the first quarter and then comes back and starts after halftime. So this was a different one. This was, we had no idea it was hurt. Where's Ant? Bones in the game. What is going on? So hopefully he's okay. Like I said, I think he's going to be okay. We'll find out more tomorrow. Not sure if he's going to play against Denver, although you would think his competitive spirit, he would want to with all the history against Denver. I do know this. There have been games before, and I even think I was at one, I think 2 years ago, where the Wolves were shorthanded against Denver, and they came out and played. They are going to bring their A game against the Denver Nuggets tomorrow night. And I'm excited to watch. A huge win tonight for the Timberwolves. And by the way, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Give a 5-star rating, Spotify, Apple, and check out our sponsor, 612 Tees. They make awesome T-shirts and hats. Become a tree slut. Go to his website, 612tees.com. Use the link and see what I'm talking about. Become a tree slut. I would love you to join the family. This is the Running with the Timberwolves post-game show on the Believe Sports Network. And as always, go Wolves.